Well, welcome back, everyone, to Aligning with Success. This is actually Thursday night, not Monday night. Our usual event did take place Monday night. However, due to a technical issue, we did not have the recording. But back through popular demand, we are going to record this session. So it is week 18. It is the first month or the first week in the month of May, which, of course, all of you who are on this call know we set goals the first week of the month for the month of May. Hopefully, we will get a chance to hear from you in the next call as to how you fared in the month of April with respect to setting your goals and goal achieving. And by the way, whether you achieve the goal or not is not the point. It's the process you went through and what you learned in that process and what you gained as insights as to things that you could improve. We all win, we all benefit when we learn from each other. That's the point of that exercise. So if you haven't set your goals for the month of May, please do so right away. If you're on the May We Accelerate team, which means you are eligible to join us on our Thursday night calls, this one being the exception, a special call, then please make sure you set your goals in writing and send it to us through that chat. If you have someone you would like to have join the May We Accelerate chat who has a goal themselves, please invite them to the chat by the usual link. If you don't know where that link is, it's in the Core Consultant newsletter. It's in a document as well that we publish regarding the program that we've launched for this year. Anyways, so with respect to continuing or representing the information that you picked up on Monday, I'm going to turn it to our guest host, co-host, and moderator for tonight's call, Dave Rolfe, Royal Diamond. Take it away,
Well,
Dave.
thank you, Michael. Nice to be here. Is it going to flip to me?
I'm going to make sure it does. So give me 1 second. It is set to view speaker, and maybe we'll just make
Okay,
it
so I'm
multi-speaker.
going to talk. Tell me what
There we go.
happened. Am I
Looks
on?
like looks like you're up. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so great. We did a call on Monday, and it relates to what you said earlier about the goal and what we talked about in the last several sessions about your administrative scale of setting up, your goal down to your valuable final product. And now I'm going to introduce another aspect of this technology, which is going to make it a little bit easier to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So I'm going to be able to share my screen here, and I think this is it. So let's see what happens. And there we go. So
Yeah, we're
conditions
good.
of your business, distributorship, and or your life. Now, ask anyone how they're doing, and you're going to get an answer, which is how they view what's going on in their life. And this can be an emotional response versus the actual reality of what's going on. Facing the truth or the reality of things can be tough sometimes. So even when things are not that good, the answer could be fine or doing okay, when in actual fact they're not. And understanding the truth about your condition will allow you to change it for the better. This is the idea. Now, I learned about this information many, many years ago, and I've applied it over the years, and it really helped me create the success I've had both personally and in the many businesses that I've owned and operated. And this is what we're going to talk about over the next three sessions and meetings that we have on aligning with success with Mike and Dave, and at least my part will be, and then we'll go from there. So, what's a condition? So, let's look at the definition. It's an operating state, an organization, and that when we look at our organization, our business, or its parts, or an individual, pass through various states of existence. And these, if not handled properly, bring about shrinkage and misery, worry, and death. And that's the reality of life, as you know, and you've experienced. So let's take a look at what they are and what one needs to do to move up. Starting from the top, we're going to look at that and move all the way down. So at the top is power change. And this would be for somebody that's selling their business. They've reached the top. So Michael is in reached power, and now he wants to move on and sell it to or pass it on to his family. There's a way to do that so that it doesn't lose any ground. Below that is power, and that's when we'll talk. That's not what we're going to talk about tonight. Then affluence, normal, emergency, danger, non-existence. And then below non-existence, you have a number of other conditions: liability, doubt, enemy, treason, confusion. Now, for example, when one doesn't know what they're going to do, then they're in doubt. And if they don't know what to do, there's an actual formula that you can apply to get you out of doubt and move forward. But anyway, today what we're going to talk about are three conditions: non-existence, normal, and affluence, that are key to getting started and building your business. And then next week we're going to talk about the downside, what happens when things don't go the way they're supposed to, danger and emergency, and then after that the balance. Now, each condition needs to be defined, and there needs to be an instruction for what one needs to do and an understanding of what happens when one does or doesn't apply the condition correctly. So when we're going about in life and we're going about living or going about doing business and we don't do the right things, then we can fall flat on our face and things can screw up badly and we can make huge mistakes. So it's that kind of thing. We talked about this in the terms of policy, where if you don't know the policy that needs to be applied, it's really hard to make it work. And of course, it's experience that creates that policy. Now, the correct condition for one's business or life situation is going to depend on production and what is being used to measure results and determine the condition in the first place. So, what we learned 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago now was your valuable final product, the product that you're producing. Now, I used in that the analogy of making the coffee tables as a business. So anybody in the business and everybody in the business was concerned with creating that end result. Well, you as a distributor with Nikon, in looking at building your business, one of your main products and probably the most valuable is a distributor in your organization that's getting what they want. Because if they're getting what they want, then you're going to get the exchange, and that's in our realm, income. So as an example, when you start out at a condition called non-existence. Now, because nothing has been established, you have no production anywhere, and you need to do certain things to make it all happen. We kind of know this. We've talked about it. We give it names. We'll talk about it again. But fundamentally, this is something that can be applied anywhere in life. You could do this into you want to find friends, you want to join a club, you want to find a mate or however you want to look at that. And so the first thing you got to do is you got to find someone or many someones to talk to. What do we refer this to as create your list? The second is you want to make yourself known. Well, this is your story. This is who you are, what you represent, what you're about, what you're doing, where you're going, why you're doing it, that kind of stuff, because that will identify with the other person. I mean, at the very beginning, when I started the business, my challenge is I needed to make $8,000 a month. That was it, bottom line. I was doing this because I thought I could make that money by being involved and learning what to do, et cetera, et cetera. What I quickly learned was that when I started talking to like-minded people who also needed the same challenge, magic happened. And so when you make yourself known, that comes out, people recognize it. It's been called many things. You could call it law of attraction, you could call it whatever you want to call it. But the bottom line is you go to a party and it's guys, husbands, wives, that kind of thing socially, and you're a golfer. And you talk to the guy next to you and, you say, well, do you like golfing? And he said, God, golfing, man, I just went on a golf trip around the world. Well, the rest of that night, the two of you are going to talk about golf stories till you're blue in the face, and everybody else is going to walk away and talk to other people because that's the way it works. So what I found in doing this was when I made myself known as to what I was about, where I was going, what I was doing, then I attracted attention. Then the next step is find out what's needed and wanted. And then that's when I would ask the question, well, would you be interested in making an extra 5,000? Do you need to solve this problem? Do you need to change what's going on, et cetera, et cetera? And then the final thing was then produce or present what you find out. So if I said to somebody, do you need to make an extra 5,000? Then I'd show it to them, make that presentation, show them how it worked, and away we'd go. And so therefore the valuable final product would be that distributor that, is getting what they want and so on and so forth. And when I look at back in history and I look at my situation, my business and other people's business, everybody did the same thing. They did the same thing. They went out and they found someone to talk to. They found many people to talk to. They made themselves known. They found out what was needed and wanted. They presented it like crazy and they built themselves an organization. Now, you're new in town, you want a girlfriend or you want a boyfriend. So what do you got to do? Well, you got to find somebody to talk to. Then you got to make yourself known. I'm Joe Blow, or I'm Sally Jane and I just moved to this and I'm trying to get in the social circuit, whatever. Well, look what they're doing on social media. See, it's the same stuff anyway. So that's non-existence. Now, this could be applied to anything, as we know, and it's what we do when we start the business, or when you're in the business for a long time and your production falls off and there's no production going on, you can find yourself back in that condition where you got to get out there and find out, find somebody to talk to, make yourself known, find out what's needed and wanted, et cetera, et cetera. So these are formulas that you will apply based on the condition. Now, the trick to this is to move up the conditions, as we will see, but it's how do you determine what that condition is? And it can't be emotional. Because again, you saw at the beginning, you can say, yeah, things are great, when really they're falling apart, because you don't want to, tell the world how you really feel, because then you might be embarrassed or whatever the case may be. But for you managing your business, you want to deal with the truth, because the truth was going to get you to what's going to get you out of here. Okay. Now, based on what we do, our valuable final product is we looking to make a distributor that's getting what they want. And this is made up of by completing many other sub products, and I could call them sub-valuable products, like calls, meetings, demonstrations, follow-up calls, ABCs, text, Zooms, conventions, you name it. Whatever we do, whatever is known as policy in the do category, all of those actions contribute to that end result. So I've taken people to big meetings. They cognited at the big meeting. They decided they wanted to go at the big meeting. They became a distributor. I've made phone calls to get people attracted. So lots of things contribute. And again, what you have to understand, which is the next part of this, is what is it that you do that creates a result that needs to be known and understand. So it's also based on doing and time to do. So for example, if you need to recruit 5 new distributors, and to do this, you need to make calls, make presentations, do ABCs, do follow-up calls, attend meetings, and other things. The key here is how many of these sub-valuable products are required to make your valuable final product. So, we can liken this to many other things in life. We talked about it in the sense of building a house. You have a piece of land, you hire the architect, he draws the plans, you go to a contractor, he takes the plans, then you have to buy the raw materials, how much and when and how much it's going to take. And, sometimes these houses can be built in 6 months, sometimes a year. It all depends on what you're trying to put together. But the faster you do it, the quicker you move up the ladder. And again, so we've developed policy in building this business that shows you how to do that in quick order. So getting started, one typically starts out at 0 and then over time accumulates results. So you can make your first call on day 1, and by the end of the week, let's say you've made 100 calls. Now, as far as calls are concerned, you have definitely created some production. And now what does this production mean? Okay, so 100 calls. Standing by itself doesn't mean anything. It just 100 calls. So data is only as valuable as it can be compared to other information and data. So we want to relate this to what we're doing, and the activities are working becomes the $1,000,000 question as to, what does this relate to? So therefore, you need to know other information and other subproducts that you make up that create this valuable final product. Therefore, you would need to monitor those as well. So you keep track of how many people you called. You keep your texts, your emails, your presentations, all of those sort of stuff. And then you're going to see as I do this presentation, the form that they're going to come out and what happens when you take a look at them. So therefore, so let's say that those calls that you created you got 30 appointments out of the 100 calls. Now those 30 appointments are then appointments that netted you 20 ABCs. So out of the 30, you got 20. Out of the 20 ABCs, you netted 6 new distributors of some kind. And that was accomplished in month 2 because you took month 1 to get it going and you got those done in month 2, essentially. And then in month 3, you created 9 more, month 4, and month 4, 14 more, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the graph. So you started off at 0 in non-existence. This is an actual distributor. So I'm using somebody's results. They set it up. They got by the end of their first, at the end of January, by the end of February, they had 6 distributors. By the end of March, they had 12. By the end of April, they had 21. And by the end of May, they had 35. So they went from 0 with a plan, and each month we took a look at their condition. So the first month, this person went from non-existence and got into normal. So we're going to show you the formal formula for normal so you see what was done. And then from normal, we want to move up. And the next one, there's 2 in between, but we're not talking about those tonight. And then she ended up in an affluence condition. And I'm going to describe these so that you understand the concept and the terminology. Now, you would also have graphs for your calls and other activities to see the relationship of an activity to a result. And as an example, in this situation, we monitored calls, emails, texts, follow-up calls, presentations, ABCs, and Zoom events. And what was interesting, all the graphs related to what she did, like the calling and the emailing and the follow-up calls, were directly related to her results. The one that didn't was text. The text did not directly relate to that. They went up and they went down and nothing happened. So they didn't affect things. So what we gleaned from that was by looking at the picture, we saw what was related to what. So that gave her an understanding of what she needed to do. That's the idea. So that was for that individual. Your results are going to be completely different because you're you and that we understand. But the main idea is that, and this is one of the most crucial points, what is it you can do and what results do you create when you do that? I mean, this is profound in its own right because you go out there, you eat differently, you walk differently, you talk differently, you dress differently, but the general facts, you know how to eat, you know how to walk, you know how to talk, you know how to dress. But you do it in your own unique way based on the information, your education, your family upbringing, your experiences, and all those kind of good things. And the only way you're really going to know in this factor is by doing it. So, and once you have that down, you can create anything you want. All you need to do is, do what you know how to do, focus on creating the valuable final product, and results will happen. So in this particular case, in this period of time, the volume went up from 0 to 9,500, went into affluence, and that person created 3 silvers in that last period of the month, all by following the conditions of what to do. So let's take a look at them. So you started in non-existence, you found people to talk to, you made yourself known, you found out what was needed and wanted, and you presented that and you got results. Now, after each period, and for us, this is a month, we have a picture and a condition. So in month 1, we went from non-existence to normal, and from month 2 to month 3, it was normal, but in months 4 and 5, it was moving into affluence. So here's the normal formula. And this is really kind of interesting. So what does normal mean? Well, just a nice progressive moving up. And so the first thing is you don't change anything. So whatever you did got you there. So that's what you want to understand. Whatever you did got you there, and whatever it was. So that's why you want to keep track of everything you do, so that when you're doing them, then you can go back and you can study that. It used to be in the old time, in the old days, we tell people, you want to go somewhere, go make a mess. And they'd go out and they'd make a mess and they'd recruit an army of people and all that sort of stuff. And they'd have volume and they'd hit the target. And then at the end of the month, they'd be, whoa, now that's over with. And the future wasn't so bright for them because when you ask them what they did, they can't remember what they did and they couldn't teach other people what they did. So there's you can make up a good mess by understanding what you're doing, but just make some notes so that when you're next, see, here's how this business truly works when you bring in others and teach them what to do, or direct their attention to what to do, or give them to somebody else to teach them to what to do. But it's the duplicative action of the other people that makes this work. And both Michael and I experienced great heights. Michael did more than I did. And but each to our own. And we did what we wanted to do. We got what we wanted to do. And that's what's important. And what we want to be able to, because everybody coming forward is different. Well, we have a whole different kettle of fish right now. We have a whole different population. We have a whole different group of people. We have a whole different economic structure and system. I mean, it's different. So what we really have to do is understand that so we can apply the correct conditions. So when you get going, then you don't change anything. So if you got three people in your first month, and whatever they did, maybe you got a senior, a direct, and maybe an executive. All right. Well, what did you do to get those becomes the issue because you want to repeat that. Because if you repeat that and teach that to those people, guess what's going to happen in month two? You're going to grow. And you've got to get to a certain size. It's going to take a certain amount of time for this to happen. You'll see that as it go. Ethics are mild, and this relates to disciplinary activities. So, you don't beat yourself up because something didn't happen, or you missed a meeting, or you were late, or whatever the case may be. So when it comes time to business, you have certain rules and regulations that you should apply as a business owner. You should dress the part, look the part, act the part, be the part, et cetera, et cetera. Because if you want to be a professional, you got to act like that. Well, sometimes we make mistakes. And so you don't want to beat yourself up too badly when you're in normal. Everything's fine. Whatever you did is cool. So just enjoy that. Now, here's the neat part. Every time a statistic betters, okay, so every time something goes up, look it over and find out what the heck bettered that. What were you doing? What were you involved with? Who were you talking to? What were all the circumstances? Did you go to a big meeting? Did you get trained by somebody? What was it? Because these are the key things you want to repeat that. Because those are the do things that you've been able to do and create. So, example. So when I first got going, I saw I needed to make $8,000 a month. And I started to try and move the product and talk about selling a mini or a back flex or a pair of insoles. And to me, that was rather slow at that time. And my needs were very much needs. So I went to my mentor and we talked and I said, how does this thing really work? Then he gave me a dissertation. He explained how it worked. And I got the idea that I needed lots of other people in my organization doing what I was doing. Then I realized from my past experience in dealing with insurance, the oil and gas industry, getting investors, that the key was attracting them to something they were interested in. So I had to find out what was of interest in order to get them going. So what I looked at was, okay, I got a guy interested. How did I get him interested? Because I talked about the money. I said, show me the money. And so on and so forth. So I kept repeating that with every single person I brought into the business, and that developed my team and got me to Royal Diamond. And it took me 6 years to get there, but that's fine. We're not talking about a race. I got into affluence and went into power, and we're going to talk about that as we move down into the other conditions. Okay. So every time a statistic better, look it over, find out what bettered it, and then focus on doing that again and again without abandoning what you're doing along the way. Next one, number 4 with normal is every time a statistic worsens, quickly find out why and remedy it. So all of a sudden, you're going along, you recruited three, you created $1,500 worth of volume, and then it drops down, you only got one, and your volume drops to, okay, stop right there. Okay, so what changed? Let's tweak this. We need to pour on the coals a little bit here. We need to go out and tweak that and change that. That's the idea. Now it's all focus. So again, when you're working as a business owner and you're by yourself and you're working at home, life gets in the way and you get distracted. So if you don't have the rules that keep you, engaged and watching what's going on, oh, it's a nice day. I'm going to go to the park. Oh, it was a no shirt, no pant day. I'm going to go out and get a suntan like Michael did yesterday. So it happens. I can't tell you how many times it happens, but it happens. So you get sidetracked. So if you want to get there, once you get there, you can take those days off. But you got to get that runway, you got to get that plane off the ground and into the air and flying high. Okay. Now let's take a look at affluence. So normal's slightly up. Affluence is it's a steeper incline. And here's the first thing about affluence, economize. So now if you think about this, I've had many times when I've had some windfalls in life where I've got a lot of money all at one time, and I've done both things. I've economized and I've also splurged. Well, with the economize, that's what you want to do. You want to economize. If you're dealing with money, you economize. So you don't buy anything with any future commitment. You cut down you really look at your budget and you look at your future to make sure you're going in the right direction. If it's not related to money, then it's related to time. So you want to economize your time. You want to become more compact with what you do. So you do more in smaller periods of time. Don't waste it. Don't, oh, okay, I got five distributors. I did silver. I'm going to lay back and relax, and the world's going to take care of me. No, you just got into affluence. You got to silver. You got a lot of people. Now pour on the coals. You got to take it to the next level because you haven't crossed the line yet, and it's very important. Number two, pay every bill under the sun, moon, and stars, and make every action count and don't engage in any worthless actions. So if you ran into a lot of money, then pay off all your bills and then take the remainder and invest that in service facilities. What's a service facility? Well, that's, maybe more advertising, fix up your web page, do more, a nicer meeting, upgrade your products for display, whatever the case may be. But whatever you were doing got you there. So take that information and keep applying it, keep using it. And then if it's regarding money, then you'd pay every bill off the sun, moon, and stars, and don't buy anything with a future commitment because that future commitment's going to lock you into a payment that may be affected by your income. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you don't apply these, you go down. It's a law. You go down. So it's very important that you understand how these work. And I'm going to tell you the other two next week, but right now we're on the positive side of things. So we want to deal with that first. Okay. And number four, discover what caused the condition and strengthen it so that, again, you take your information and you pour on the coals and then you move up to the next condition. So if I go back and look at my business, I started off in non-existence. I then went out and I did the formula. I found people to talk to. I made myself known. I then found out what was needed and wanted. Now, along the way, I'm being educated. I'm tweaking my story. I'm practicing my brains out, and I'm talking to as many different people as I possibly can because I didn't have a crystal ball. I had no idea who would join me. I knew from other people and watching and observing what was going on that people were joining, but I had to figure out, Dave Rolfe and what was going to work for me. And I looked at what other people were doing. I did their same deal, et cetera, and I moved forward. So after the first year, as you know, I left the business because I wasn't sure. So I went into doubt. We'll talk about that condition in a couple of weeks, but I went into doubt and wasn't sure if Nikken was going to make it. And had ants in my pants with regard to being an entrepreneur, and I had another opportunity that crossed my plate that looked pretty attractive, and it turned out to be really good. We got some properties, sold them to Sprint, and made a little small fortune by doing so. But what happened was Nikan just kind of plodded along, and then all of a sudden, so it was in a condition of emergency, which is a flat line. And then 3 years later, I came back in and rebuilt it. And then I went into normal affluence and power by applying the conditions and following it. And there were lots of circumstances around that would help me do that. And it was all based on what I did. So these, along with what you did with your admin skill, now you add to that your conditions. So at the beginning of the month, then what you would do is then you would apply the right condition for your circumstance. You've set the goal. The goal is you want to be a platinum or a diamond or royal diamond. You've got your purpose. You know why you're doing this because you want to solve some other issues in your life and living. And you've got your policy laid out. You got the plan. It's to go royal diamond, whatever it is. And you got all those other things. You did that in your admin skill and you know what your valuable final product is. Now you have to apply your condition. And the condition is the picture of your activity and results. So if it's going up, you're in normal. If it's going down, you're in danger. If it's going across, you're in emergency. If it's going straight up, you're in affluence. And if it's going up forever and ever and ever, you end up in power. And that's where Michael ended up. That's where Dave ended up. And a number of other people ended up in that. And all they did was they followed this nice little formula. So today we covered the three conditions: non-existence, normal, and affluence. And these are all positive in their moving up. So everybody starts off in non-existence. You can end up in non-existence after a period of time if nothing's happening. If you apply the condition correctly, then you're going to move up from there. Where you move up to, it depends on what you do and accomplish. And now what we'll do next week is we're going to talk about danger and emergency. Now, these are the two conditions that when something drops. So let's say you're going up and then all of a sudden it falls off and it cracks. You got into danger. So there's a formula that you can apply that will help you get out of danger. Because again, if you don't apply it, you can then go down even further. And that's where you end up in non-existence. Or you can go down even further than that and you can end up in doubt or treason or confusion, which we've seen other businesses do. They quit, they leave, they go away, and it's over with, and their dreams are not reached. And there's no reason for that, none whatsoever. And then after that, we'll do the other two areas and take it from there. So this is what we covered on Monday. We didn't get it recorded, so we wanted to get it recorded so that you've got it in the series. And then next Monday, we'll carry on with the next section. So I hope you enjoy. And if you have any questions about this or want to know the source information, there's plenty of courses that are free and available where you can learn all this stuff. Let me know and I'll direct you to the right places. Other than that, thank you very much. Enjoy the evening and we'll talk soon.
Well, let me just jump in before you wind up. So really it's creating an awareness of what works and what doesn't. It's really becoming astute and attuned to the things that work and what doesn't work. And what I like about this, Dave, is you're saying it's personal. Everybody's doing more or less the same thing, but the way you do it is uniquely you. And one of the things you mentioned a couple of times is the line. You haven't crossed the line yet. In normal terminology, what I would refer to that as is critical mass. There's a point at which you hit critical mass and it takes over. The reaction takes over. It's kind of like in a nuclear fission. In a nuclear fission reactor, they have rods that go inside the uranium and they remove those rods so that the reactor can start to react. It starts to take over. And they put those rods in to slow down the reaction so that they control it so it doesn't get out of control. There's a point at which it's a critical mass where the reaction happens on its own. And basically you can't even stop it. So that critical mass in our business is when there's a certain population of people on your team that regardless of you, they're going to keep the engine going because they have their own reasons and they're driving it rather than you driving it. Generally speaking, I don't know how you would qualify that or quantify that, but we've seen this number thrown around in the industry. It's about 100 people. When you've got about 100 people on your team engaged, you've hit critical mass. And that means you have a business that's self-sustaining, that continues to burn, regardless of what's going on with you. So it's just something to keep in mind. We want to build it out, and keep your foot on the pedal until you hit that critical mass. And the sooner you hit critical mass, obviously, the better, because then you have a business that's sustaining or self-sustaining. Any last thoughts, Dave?
Yeah, well, when I talk about power and power change, you're going to talk about that. What terminology I've used in the past is the make break point.
Hmm.
So you hit this make break point where there's enough energy greater than the energy required to get there, and it takes off on its own.
There you go.
Now, that
Yep.
can happen at various levels for different circumstances, but it's all also going to be based on, production statistics, conditions, etc. And it's really fascinating. And it boils down to this, and what you and I think, have been trying to tell this group forever and a day. You got to treat it like a business. You got to pay attention. You got to really understand what works, and then you got to learn how to communicate what works, because what we've observed in our history is that when people get it, they get it. And if they get it, they like it, and it meets their needs, they go for it. And so that has never changed. That in
Mhm.
history, life, anything, it's like, people have a need, they go figure out how to solve that need, from whether you were a caveman, or whether you were, you know, crossing the Atlantic Ocean as Columbus, or whatever the case may be. We live in America, and it's the 25th century or 21st century or whatever it is, and we have our challenges and need to overcome. But it boils down to, you can think about it and say, God, I'd love to be a Royal Diamond. But the bottom line is, unless you program it and figure out what has to be done to get there and do the activities, it's not going to happen, to any great extent. So pay attention, pay your dues, listen to what we're trying to pass on, and if there's something that works for you, then apply it, and then go from there.
I like that you broke it down real simple. Make yourself known, tell your story. Find someone to talk with, then make yourself known, tell your story. The party analogy is really good because that happens for real. Everybody experiences
Yeah,
that. We
it
we we
does.
we find our like-minded people, no matter where we
Look
are.
at look at what you did with the test and the strength test out in the
Oh yeah,
public. And how many
yeah.
how many people did you get on that thing?
Oh, to watch that? I was
Yeah.
only posted one time. There's over 60,000 views of that video.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's just how it works. So if you have the right information and people are of interest, away you go.
Yeah. There's so much opportunity out there for us to simplify the business rather
Yep.
than complicate it, starting with talking with people of like mind. I mean, if you talk to somebody who says, I drink tap water, and you ask them, why haven't you moved on? They're like, well, tap water's fine. Well, trust me, you'd be wasting your time trying to convince them otherwise, because if they haven't figured that out by now, they're not going to for a while. So find the people to talk with who are of like mind. Make yourself known, tell your which is basically tell your story, what it is
Yeah.
that you're about. Find out what they want. Show them how Nikin can be a way to get what they want, and then deliver on that.
And what's
Then
really important there, Michael, on the telling your story, the story is where you're going, your direction, where you came from, why you were doing this, with all the bells and whistles. Now, you don't have to barf over somebody with all the bells and whistles, but you got to know it so that if the need arises, you can spit it out to validate the communication between whoever you're talking to. And I think probably one of the bigger bugaboos distributors have is they don't spend the time to dial it in to be a professional, and then, again, go knock on
no, this
somebody's
is real.
door.
That's really important. What you're talking about here, like tuning the fork, I call it.
Yes,
It's
yes,
like get your frequency tuned in. Like what are you doing here? Where are you going? Why would anybody want to be with you or follow you? Is really important. And if you're confident in your story, then sharing your story will be easy. It'll be effortless. People always say, you're so good at presenting. How did you get that way? I'm like, I
Practice.
just, I tell, I tell my story. I do what I know. I talk about what I know, what I've learned. So I'm speaking from first person. I'm not trying to convince or sell anybody. And that's where you become authentic. That's where you become
Yes.
effective. And all social media marketing right now, I mean, I don't care who you study, you're going to find they're all saying the same thing. They don't want videos out of a box. They don't want those polished videos. They're not working. They're not converting people. What's converting people is conversations of people
Yeah.
with real problems, with real stories. You
Yeah.
get creative buy-in, and then somebody wants to know more. And believe it or not, every single person on this call or everyone watching the playback has a story. Your story, as is, unchanged. Your story has an audience. There are people who will want to hear your story or will resonate with your story or will be intrigued by your story or will listen if you present it. So, yeah, find someone who to talk with.
And then practice your brains out. I mean, call me, call anybody. I tell distributors when they're new that, okay, call me up at random and pitch me.
By the way, that's true, by the way. He used to write his phone number on the on the presentation so everybody would call him. Doesn't matter whose downline you're in, but so yeah, it's a true story. All
Yeah.
right, well, let's wrap up. Thanks everybody for participating. Those of you who've joined, I don't see any questions at this time. Dave, we're going to end the call, so we have this as a recording and excellent material, great content. Honestly, millions of dollars could be earned just by following these basic steps. And I know because I've earned it, you've earned it, and many more have as well. So thanks everybody for joining us this evening. We'll see you on Monday.
Next Monday.
Yeah.
You got it.
Cheers,
Bye
everyone.
for now.